2.5 weeks after the deadly collapse at the University Village Apartments, MU says the complex will be demolished. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Reed.
And I'm Brittany Pieper. The apartment complex will close on June 30th and will come down soon after that. MU says residents can end their leases between now and then without any financial consequences. MU also says it will continue current maintenance at the apartments. The Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs says, quote, "We will provide assistance to any students who are looking for alternative housing, as well as provide resources to those parents searching for child care." KOMU 8's Alexandra Pierce was at the meeting for the announcement and spoke with parents about what they plan to do now that the daycare will close.
That's right. Parents said they're upset with the decision tonight and just wish that they would have been notified a little bit sooner. Now they're just trying to figure out what the next step is and if the daycare services will continue in the future. They told me they feel as if they've been left in limbo.
This is creating a huge problem for a lot of parents, for faculty, for staff, and students.
The Student Parent Center has been a place many parents relied on.
This is going to be a huge inconvenience for people who have made long-term plans with the understanding that this was something they could count on.
But not much longer.
This evening we're announcing that we are going to close University Village Apartment Complex effective June 30th, and it will be demolished shortly thereafter.
Parents are now wondering, what's next?
I think we're also really disappointed because there was no commitment or long-term plan for the Student Parent Center.
Chancellor Lofton has plans to ask several student organizations on campus to begin discussing the possibility for a future child daycare at a new location.
We want the university to commit to maintaining the Student Parent Center on an on-campus location to make it affordable, accessible to students. That's all we ask, really.
There are 29 children currently enrolled at the Student Parent Center. Student fees funded the center in the past, but recently the center needs more money to keep daycare rates affordable.
That funding will now be used for additional deferred maintenance projects that have not been able to get to, as well as other academic priorities.
The university has not given a timeline for when a decision will be made to keep the Student Parent Center running at a different location. The university says they will provide assistance to any students who are looking for alternative housing, as well as provide resources to those parents searching for childcare.
Now, this comes after the fatal walkway collapse that killed Columbia Fire Lieutenant Bruce Britt. MU released documents revealing what it knew about the complex before the collapse. Though MU said it could not have predicted the collapse, the documents show there were concerns about safety years ago. In June 2008, Mackey Mitchell Architects prepared a report that recommended the apartments be demolished because of poor conditions. In February 2010, emails about roof and deck repairs say those areas had been an ongoing concern for the past 5 to 10 years. To see the full statement detailing the demolition as well as a timeline of events, visit our website, KOMU.com.
Developers are offering to foot the bill and then some for some possible new student housing in Columbia. Under a new proposal introduced today, developers of 3 student housing projects would pay for things like sewers that the city says it can't afford, a problem that forced the city to freeze all downtown developments earlier this year. The Columbia City Council met in a special session today to introduce the idea, one they're considering because developers are paying. There's issue, though, with the way the city's handling the public discussion. One resident says this quick turnaround isn't normal, and she is not happy about it.
City staff has taken the route of using a very arcane, rarely used governmental mechanism to really compress the time period that the process takes place so that there's a great deal of limitation on public input into it, and that's always a problem.
Columbia Mayor Bob McDavid disagrees, saying this is not that fast of a process because the developers have been working on the proposals for months. You can tell City Council what you think about the ideas next Monday and Wednesday.
New EPA mandates mean mandatory renovations to the Fulton wastewater system. The improvements will be made over a 2-year period with a cost of about $13 million. KOMU 8's Meredith Miller is here in the studio to tell us where that money will come from.
The new mandated improvements include constructing a building for ultraviolet light to better disinfect the water, reduction of phosphorus and nitrogen that is released into the air, and removal of the outfall too. That's where excess stormwater is dumped into the creek. The city of Fulton is holding an election on April 8th for voters to decide how to fund the project. Voters have the option of paying for the project in revenue bonds or through a pay-as-you-go method.
The bond election has nothing to do with as to whether the improvements of the sewer plant are going to be made or not. The improvements are going to be made. The election is allowing the citizens to decide how they want to pay for it.
The pay-as-you-go method allows for construction to start as the funds are still streaming in. This would make construction last about 7 years instead of the 2 years it would take if the bond passes. The improvements also include some non-mandated plans as well, like the construction of a 90-foot clarifying tower.
A raise to Missouri's minimum wage is now open for debate. A Senate committee voted yesterday to discuss raising the minimum wage to $10 an hour from the current $7.50. Columbia business owners and managers had mixed reactions when we asked about the raise. One business owner said the $2.50 raise in her store would likely become a problem, while another owner who already pays above minimum wage says employees who are paid more work harder. Music education is a department constantly on the chopping block, and that's what Roots and Blues and Barbecue Foundation members say that they're trying to prevent. And tonight they held a fundraiser to make sure it doesn't happen in Columbia. KOMU 8's Elizabeth Coleman joins us in the studio with more on how the foundation is trying to promote music in Columbia schools.
The money raised tonight will help expand an existing music program in Columbia schools.
More students will be singing the blues in Columbia in the next school year. Tonight's fundraiser will help the Blues in the Schools program expand its purpose to
let all schools in mid-Missouri, in Columbia and mid-Missouri, become aware of the blues, to embrace the blues, because we feel like it's a really great kind of music for everyone to learn about.
A member of the Roots and Blues and BBQ Foundation says Columbia is lucky to still have music departments.
But those monies are always under pressure, and in a lot of places those are the programs that go first. We're trying to make sure that doesn't happen in Columbia.
Currently, the Blues in the Schools program is in about 15 Columbia schools. As a part of the program, once a year a blues musician will come in and educate the students.
Their first question when they come back to school is, when will TJ be here?
With the money raised tonight, Roots and Blues hopes to expand the program to 19 schools in the coming school year.
Smith told me eventually the Roots and Blues and BBQ Foundation would like to expand the program to the entire state.
If you're missing the spring-like weather from yesterday, just hold on. Rumor has it that those temperatures may be warming back up, so let's send it over to Tim to see what we can expect.
Yep, those rumors would be true. Temperatures are going to be right back up into the lower 60s tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Right now, they're back into the lower 40s, upper 30s for many of us. That's kind of the divide across much of mid-Missouri as we go from southwest to northeast. And there's a little bit of cloud cover as well, trying to scoot through the viewing area. I think this is all done by morning or so. All those clouds are as high pressure really begins to set in over the next day or two. Here's a look at our temperature trend. 61 tomorrow, 60 on Friday. Looks like very favorable weather and very fair weather for the end of our week. We'll talk all about it and when we could see the chance for rain coming up here in just a moment.
Snow is causing serious dangers in the Himalayas, including a huge avalanche.
And springtime means seeing green outside and possibly earning some green in your wallet. Find out why.
Never be surprised by the weather. Download the Cam is brought to you by your Heart of Missouri Chevy dealers.
With all the snow this winter, many areas are bracing for flooding, and Iowa County, Wisconsin is a small snowmelt is already causing headaches throughout the last couple of days. Crews are out on the roadways attempting to push back all the slushy snow from roadways as it begins to melt. No major flooding was reported today, but the flood concern remains high as temperatures begin to warm up. And you can really see this temperature divide out across the Midwest as 50 over in Tulsa, 46 in Kansas City, and as you kind of go up north into Wisconsin, the temperature divide really begins to cool off a little bit. But yesterday we hit 80 up there. It was back into the 60s, so a lot of that was able to melt off, and that's what's causing all the concern there. But for us, you can really see that cold front that had pushed through yesterday have really affected our temperatures. But again, back in the parts of the Midwest and the Great Plains, all of those temperatures, they were back into the 60s today. So all that is going to eventually move its way here. Spring will return, don't worry. And it was kind of windy today, but all of those winds have pretty much calmed down to this point. Lots of calm northerly winds in place, 5 over in Columbia and in Kirksville. So that's kind of the winds that we're seeing at the moment as we were back into, say, 15 to 20 miles per hour for many of our wind gusts throughout the day. 37 is our temperature at the moment, and it's pretty clear compared to the cloud cover that we had over the last couple of hours. Those winds are out of the north at 5 to 10 miles per right around 5 miles per hour. They were gusting up to 10 just recently. Here's kind of a look at the overhead view. A lot of those clouds were moving through. Here's a look at that cold front that pushed through very early this morning. We saw all kinds of stuff between snow, rain, even thunderstorms. That's way off to the East Coast now. They're dealing with the snow, maybe even some severe storms as well. Kind of went through the D.C. area and through the mid-Atlantic coast. But high pressure is setting in across the Great Plains, and that's eventually going to move off east. That warms us up. That gets rid of that northwest flow that we had today. Warmer weather is in store as we head into tomorrow. Those southwest winds will help us warm up back into the 60s, I think, for tomorrow. Here's a look at what we should see by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and I think that a lot of us will be right around the freezing mark. By about lunchtime or so, we're going to be right around 51, 52 degrees with plenty of sunshine, and then ultimately topping out in the mid-afternoon right around 61 or 62 degrees. Many of us could be above 60 degrees once again tomorrow, and that trend will continue for the next couple of days. Overnight tonight, I think for the northern portions of our viewing area, right around the 29 to 30 degree mark with a few clouds. Down to the south near Lake of the Ozarks and Jefferson City, back on through Lynn and Versailles, you're back right around the freezing mark. Otherwise, more cloud cover sticks around. I think that for tomorrow, 61 does it for our temperature. Lots of sunshine. It'll be a big warm up too, and it will be very nice after the cool temperatures that we had today. For the rest of the week, I think that Friday is going to be very, very nice. 60 degrees does it for our temperature. A little bit cooler on Saturday. Otherwise, we keep the sunny skies through the rest of the weekend. Maybe a little bit cooler then on Sunday, and then leading into St. Patrick's Day back in the 50s.
A little bit of a roller coaster, but
all in
warmer.
all,
that's how March is.
All right, Tim, thank you very much. Speaking of the weather, despite the recent cold weather, the first day of spring is 8 days away. KOMU 8's Meredith Allbear explains how spring cleaning can mean a few extra bucks in this 8 Goes Green report.
Consignment store owner Cheryl Guthrie says now is a good time to bring in your gently used spring and summer clothes.
I've always loved the whole concept of recycling and reuse. And in consignment, the person bringing the clothes gets to make some money.
Guthrie says Columbia is the perfect place for a shop like hers.
Because it's a college town, first of all, you get the college kids who always are into the very latest thing. And then it's a very mobile community. A lot of people come and go with the college students, so you get lots of new people coming in all the time.
The industry of resale is growing and is now a national trend. First Research estimates the resale industry in the U.S. to have annual revenues of approximately $13 billion. Guthrie says consignment stores are an integral part of the nationwide Going Green effort. Meredith Allbear.
To sell your items at a consignment store, an appointment is typically required. Guthrie's store accepts everything from shoes, boots, purses to men's clothing.
We have the latest from protests in Venezuela. Details on the unprecedented violence coming up after the break.
Violence in Venezuela ends in bloodshed.
And avalanches caused serious damage in India. KOMU 8's James Packard has more on those stories in tonight's Worldview.
Jim and Brittany, thanks. We begin tonight in Venezuela, where tension erupted between police and anti-government protesters in the capital city today. Protesters clashed with riot police as they demonstrated against alleged brutality by security forces. This comes just a month after similar rallies brought unrest throughout the country. This is the worst violence the country has experienced in about a decade. At least 22 people have died so far. Massive avalanches in the Himalayas have caused serious damage on the border of India and Pakistan. 14 are dead, including 2 Indian Army soldiers, and many are still missing. Hundreds gathered in the town of Kulgam today to search for survivors. Police said 10 died in the Indian-controlled portion of the territory, while Pakistan's military reported another 4 dead in an avalanche on that side of the border. Dozens of people were evacuated from high-risk areas. And President Obama welcomed the acting Ukrainian Prime Minister to the White House today. The two met in a show of support for the country's new government and to deliver a message to Russia. Obama threatened consequences if Russia continues what he calls violations of international law. Ukraine's leader told the president his country is ready for talks with Russia, but said they'd, quote, never surrender. President Obama also criticized a Crimean secession referendum scheduled for Sunday as illegitimate. And that's your look around the world tonight.
Tigers are gearing up for hopefully a long weekend.
Yeah, but their first opponent wants revenge. Sports is next.
Now, from the Ford Sports Desk, KOMU 8 Sports with Chris Gervino.
Hello, everyone. The Missouri Tigers have traveled to Atlanta for the SEC tournament. The Tigers take on the Aggies of Texas A&M tomorrow at noon. The Aggies out for revenge, perhaps. Last time the teams met just last week, A&M led Mizzou the entire way into the final seconds of the game. Ernest Ross canned a couple of free throws with 7 seconds to go for this 57-56 win. Whoever wins this matchup between the Tigers and Aggies will advance to play number 1 ranked Florida in Friday's quarterfinals. Florida unbeaten in the league through regular season play at 18-0. Missouri the 8th seed in the tourney, Texas A&M seeded 9th, and the Tigers say they're ready for postseason play.
Obviously, we're excited about being here. Postseason time is exciting for folks that you look at a chance to improve yourselves, to have a chance to play in postseason, and we're excited about that. We're playing a Texas A&M team I have a lot of respect for, a team that is well coached. We know what kind of game it's going to be. We just played them.
We just have to be able to take it one game at a time, just be focused on what the coaches are telling us to do and just executing not only on offense but on defense, and just be able to, show poise towards the end of the game to pull out.
I think we've grown as a team, together. We see in our front court guys really expand their game and, come along through this late season.
The state high school basketball playoffs continue for the bigger schools tonight. Many area teams still alive. The Hickman Cupies played Waynesville in Class 5 boys sectional action in Camden. Both teams sporting 24-2 records. Some matchup for a round of 16 game in the state playoffs. And as Hickman has won that game by 1 point. It just ended. We'll have highlights for you at 10. Highlights, of course, of this game as well as Rockbridge girls looking for a 3rd straight state title. Wallop Washington by nearly 40 points. Class 4, the Helias boys playing tonight. Right now, their game's still going with the St. Charles Pirates. Highlights of that coming up at 10. And we can tell you the Helias girls have won their game against St. Charles West, so they advance to the state quarterfinals. So a very good night so far for area high school teams in the playoffs. Highlights of all 4 of those games coming up tonight at 10. And the Battle girls get a victory as well in Class 4 by 9 over Festus, so Battle advances to the state Class 4 girls quarterfinals. There are your teams having a big night of high school basketball in the playoffs. Lots of highlights for you at 10, but for now, that's sports.
Chris, thank you very much. A familiar face made his way to the nation's capital.
But it's not who you think. We'll tell you when we come back.
Slumber.
Kermit the Frog made his way to the Executive Office building in Washington, D.C. today. The Muppet shared the podium with First Lady Michelle Obama and General Martin Dempsey at a screening of the Disney movie Muppets Most Wanted. The event was held for military families and children as part of a Joining Forces initiative started by the First Lady and Dr. Jill Biden in 2011. Kermit spoke with the children, telling them they are heroes just like their parents, and he even received a special coin from the general.
Kind of looked like Kermit was doing most of the talking there, but...
Well, figures.
Okay.
Here's a look at what we're following for KOMU 8 News at 10. One family-owned business in Eldon went green for the first time since it opened its doors 65 years ago.
Coming up, how the move is helping both the environment and their wallets. And remember, you can always go to KOMU.com 24/7 for the latest news, weather, and sports. Tim.
Yep, those southwest winds are going to take place tomorrow and really kick our temperatures up back into the 60s. That's where we'll be at for tomorrow. That mild weather returns and stays with us for the next couple of days. Here's a look at the next few hours. Looks like temperatures are going to fall back into the lower 30s with a little bit of cloud cover. Otherwise, I think that the next couple of days looks nice. Returning into the 60s, plenty of sunshine.
Chris and I were at the Georgia Dome in Atlanta a few months ago for the SEC Football Championship game. We'll have a report there tonight at 10.
Right, live report. L.C. Chandler on the scene for KOMU 8.
And of course, the football season is over. This would have to do with the SEC basketball.
They're
tournament.
putting basketball games in domes more and more these days, Jim.
They sure are.
Who would have thought it?
They just put it kind of down in one end.
A lot of basketball guys don't like it either. It's a different
Really?
background to shoot.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Depth perception.
A lot of guys will tell you they prefer the
perception.
standard arenas.
We would know since we're
Well,
such good
we're
shooters.
sports guys,
Yeah.
For Heart of Missouri.